Ethan stood in front of the rusty docking platform, blinking at the broken sign above it. It read, Station -11 in faded letters. The stars behind him shimmered. But this place looked like it had been forgotten for years. He pulled out a small metal coin. 1 galactic credit, and stared at the offer again on his datapad. It said, Space Station for sale. Only 1 credit. No refunds, no questions. Hesitated for a moment, then grinned. 1 credit was all he had left. He had no job, no ship, and no home. This was either the worst mistake of his life or the luckiest gamble. He placed the credit in the old payment slot. It buzzed, then the massive doors groaned open. Ethan stepped inside. The lights flickered. The air smelled like dust and metal. He whispered to himself, Welcome home, Captain. But the second he took 3 steps forward, the doors slammed shut behind him. The entire station trembled, and the gravity field shifted. He stumbled, caught himself, and looked around. The hallway in front of him started to glow, guiding lights forming a path. A soft, mechanical voice spoke through unseen speakers. Welcome, Ethan. Authorization confirmed. Station 11 control systems now active. He blinked, confused. What authorization? He had never been here before. The lights grew brighter, pulling him forward. The floor was cold. The walls were smooth and humming. Reached the central chamber, a wide circular room with broken furniture, a dead console, and a single large door at the end. As he approached it, the console sparked and came to life. Warning, lifeforms detected in upper quarters. Stasis failure possible. He looked up, heart pounding. Lifeforms here. He ran to the door, pressed a button, and it slid open slowly with a hiss. Inside, he saw something he did not expect. 3 figures standing still, eyes wide as they stared at him. All 3 were women, tall, elegant, and completely alien. One had glowing blue skin and tattoos running across her arms. Her eyes were sharp and alert, like a soldier ready for war. The second had long silver hair floating around her as if underwater, her expression unreadable but calm. Third had soft lavender skin, large golden eyes, and strange markings that looked like circuits across her face. They all looked different, yet each of them was stunning, and each of them was clearly not expecting him. One with tattoos stepped forward fast. Who are you? How did you get in here? This station is sealed. Ethan raised his hands. I bought it just now, paid 1 credit, got the deal from a junkyard listing. The girls looked at each other, confused. The silver-haired one stepped forward and spoke. You cannot be here. No one is allowed here, not after what happened. Ethan frowned. What happened? Soft-voiced one with golden eyes answered. This station trapped us. We came to study it years ago, but something changed. It locked us inside. Every time we tried to leave, it would reset and bring us back here. Ethan looked around nervously. So this is a trap? The warrior girl narrowed her eyes. It is alive in a way. It listens, but only follows old commands. We tried to override it, failed every time. Ethan looked back at the console in the main room, then at the door that opened only for him. Station recognized me when I came in, called me. Ethan confirmed my authorization. All 3 girls froze. The silver-haired one whispered, It never did that for us. Suddenly the lights turned red, the whole station shook, and the speakers crackled. Unknown lifeform identified. Command bridge access granted. Core route unlocked. Walls shifted as if the station was rearranging itself. Lavender girl grabbed Ethan's arm, her eyes wide with fear. It has never done that before. Something is different this time. The warrior girl clenched her fists. She woke it up. The hallway behind them opened, revealing a new path. Ethan looked at the glowing corridor, then at the alien girls, then back at the console. What did I just buy? The silver-haired girl whispered again. You bought more than a station. Ethan nodded slowly, his heart racing. Yeah? I figured that part out already. He turned toward the corridor. The girls followed close behind. He didn't know what waited ahead, but one thing was clear. This 1 credit deal just changed his life forever. And possibly not for the better. Ethan followed the glowing corridor with careful steps. The alien girl stayed close behind their eyes, scanning every shadow, every wall, and every shift in the metal around. Then the walls pulsed like veins, alive, humming with some strange power that made Ethan's Skin crawl, he glanced at the lavender-skinned girl beside him who still held his arm. Her name was Cora. She had a soft voice, but her grip was firm, like she had no plans of letting him vanish into the darkness alone. Behind them, Lyra the warrior moved. Like a soldier, her eyes sharp, her muscles tense, ready to strike at anything that moved wrong, while the silver-haired girl who called herself Nixa floated more than walked, her body calm, but her eyes full of storm. The corridor curved downward, opening into a wide hall with walls covered in alien symbols glowing softly in green and gold lines. They looked like writing, but Ethan had never seen a language like this. Nixa stepped forward and touched one symbol. It glowed brighter, and a small hologram appeared showing a strange machine and a group of figures working on it. "That is the core," she said softly, "the center of the station. The heart that keeps it alive. It is also the mind that decides who can stay and who must be removed." Ethan stared at the image, trying to understand. It looked ancient, not just old ancient, as if the station had existed long before human space travel had even begun. Cora moved to another symbol, pressed her hand, and the wall shifted, revealing another chamber, dimly lit, filled with old equipment, dust-covered tablets and fragments of broken drones. "We lived here," she said, her voice quiet. "For many cycles we tried to find a way out. We tried to talk to it, to break the loop, but the station would always reset. Our work take us back to the beginning, as if nothing ever happened." Lyra kicked a broken drone, her voice angry. "We were prisoners, trapped like insects in a box. Time meant nothing in here. Days, months, years, they all blended together." Ethan moved to a corner where a strange console blinked softly. He touched it, and suddenly a screen appeared with lines of strange code and then words in human language. "Welcome, Ethan. Last bloodline of Prime Commander access." Unlocked, his breath caught in his throat. "Last bloodline? What did that even mean?" The girl stared at the message in shock. "This station was built by a human," Nixa whispered, "or at least part human." Cora stepped closer, looked at Ethan with new eyes. "It knows you, it listens to you. We tried for so long, but it never answered us, not once." Ethan pressed a few buttons, and the console opened. A small map of the station appeared with different sectors marked, some red, some green. One sector blinked in yellow, marked as core access restricted. He pointed at it. "Maybe this is where we need to go. Maybe that core can tell us more." Nixa looked at him and nodded. "But if we go there, we may wake something else." Lyra crossed her arms. "Or it may finally give us a way out." As they debated, the station suddenly trembled. A loud screech filled the halls, and the lights flickered, then went dark for a few seconds. "Emergency system reboot in progress." The voice echoed around them, making Ethan shiver. A hidden panel opened beside the console, revealing a glowing object floating in a containment field, a crystal pulsing with blue light. Cora gasped. "That is the control shard. It connects directly to the station's mind." Ethan reached for it, but Nixa stopped him. "Wait, once you touch it, the station will fully recognize you, and it may no longer see us as equals." Lyra looked at him with a strange mix of fear and hope. "Or it may finally see you as master, and give us the freedom we never had." Ethan took a deep breath, looked at the three of them, then slowly placed his hand on the shard. A surge of energy rushed through him. The lights blazed, the walls shifted, and the entire station roared to life. "Command chain re-established. Core pathway now available." He let go of the shard, breathing heavily, his fingers tingling from the strange connection. Nixa looked around wide-eyed. "It has changed. The station is reacting to your will." Cora stepped beside him, eyes shining. "Maybe now we can escape. Maybe we can be free." Lyra placed her hand on her sword. "But we must be careful. Freedom always has a price." Ethan looked at the map again. The core sector now blinking green, unlocked. He didn't know what he was now, not just a visitor, not just a buyer, but something more. And the deeper they went, the more he started to feel like this station was not just technology, it was a living thing, and it had been waiting for him. He turned toward the next corridor, the path ahead glowing brighter, with 3 alien girls at his side, and a mystery growing with every step. He knew one thing for sure. Secrets of this station were only just beginning to reveal themselves, and he might be the only one who could face them. The air inside the next corridor felt colder, the walls no longer smooth, but marked with scratches like claws had once dragged along them. Ethan walked slowly, eyes watching the strange patterns, while Lyra moved ahead, her sword drawn, her posture tight with caution. Nixa floated silently behind her fingertips, glowing as she scanned the shifting walls, her voice soft. Something in this section is different. The structure is older, the technology more advanced. Cora studied a small screen on her wrist blinking with lines of alien code. She frowned. This area is locked by 3 different levels of clearance, one of them just unlocked when Ethan touched the shard. Ethan swallowed and stepped forward. The door in front of them was unlike the others, black metal with gold trim, covered in strange carvings. It didn't have a panel or a handle, just a single crystal in the center pulsing slowly. He lifted his hand and touched the crystal. The door groaned, the walls rumbled, and the floor vibrated under their feet. Then with a long hiss it slid open, revealing a massive chamber filled with blue mist and floating pods. Dozens of them lined the walls, some cracked open, some still glowing with lights. Lyra stepped inside and stared. Each pod contains something or someone. These are stasis units. Cora moved to one of the open pods and knelt beside it. A long, deep scratch marked the floor next to it. Something broke out of this one and left no body. Nixa floated to the central platform, where a larger pod stood, darker than the rest, the mist around it thicker, the control panel beside it blinking in patterns. She placed her hand on the console, and a low hum filled the room. Then a hologram activated, showing the face not human, not fully alien, with features sharp and regal, eyes glowing bright silver. It spoke in a language none of them understood. Ethan felt a strange pull inside his mind, as if the words were not heard, but remembered. He closed his eyes and listened. Voice said this station was once a sanctuary built during the age of collapse. It held those too rare, too precious, too powerful to be lost. The creator was one with mixed blood, a bridge between humans and the old stars. Lyra looked at Ethan with narrowed eyes. Nixa said softly, "That voice is speaking to you, only you." Cora stood and walked to Ethan, touching his arm. "Your DNA. It matches someone from the original crew, or the architect himself." Ethan stepped to the central pod and placed his hand on the console. The pod hissed and opened slowly, but it was empty. No body, no remains, just a shimmer of dust that sparkled and vanished into the air. Suddenly, the walls glowed, the floor lit up, and a deep voice echoed through the entire chamber. "Command Air confirmed. Access granted to core layer level 3 systems reactivating." Whole station seemed to breathe, the sound of power returning filled every crack, every vent, every cable. Lyra took a step back. Something is coming awake, something that slept too long. Cora pointed at a screen now showing a moving signal from deep within the station, something alive moving slowly toward them from the lower levels. Ethan tried to speak, but a sharp pulse ran through his head. His vision blurred for a second, and then he saw something. Memory not his, but someone else's. A group of engineers building the station, alien and human, working side by side, and at the center a man who looked like Ethan but older, stronger, commanding with calm authority. He gasped and staggered back. Nixa caught him, her voice gentle. "What did you see?" He whispered. "A man, my face but not mine. He was the one they followed." Cora said, "Then you are his blood, maybe even his echo, and this station still remembers him through you." Lyra looked at the door at the hallway. "Beyond it, we should not stay here longer. Whatever woke up may not be friendly." Suddenly, the floor shook and the mist swirled as a loud metal clang echoed from below. Then another closer. Ethan turned and ran toward the door. The girls followed fast as the hallway sealed behind them, trapping whatever approached on the other side. They reached the upper level again, breath heavy and hearts pounding. The console in the main chamber now displayed a full map of the station with a new blinking symbol marked Core Control Center. Nixa said, "The final lock is broken. We can reach the core now, but we must be careful. It holds more than just information. It holds the will of the station." Ethan nodded, wiped sweat from his brow, and looked at the 3 alien girls who stood with him. He didn't ask for this, didn't expect this. Somehow he had become part of something ancient. The locked wing had given them more than secrets. It had given them warnings, and they still had to find out if they were all ready. Too late asterisk. The elevator to the lower levels moved slowly down, creaking and humming with strange sounds, as if the station itself was whispering in metal language the walls around. Ethan and the three alien girls flickered with symbols that lit up. Only when he passed by Cora, leaned against the side watching the readouts on her device, her voice calm but firm. We are going into the heart of it. Now the core is the brain, the memory, and the voice of the station. If anything has answers, it will be there. Lyra stood like a statue, her hand resting on the hilt of her blade, eyes locked ahead. The tension in her muscles told Ethan she was ready for anything, even death. Nixa floated just behind him, her silver hair glowing in the dim blue light. Her fingers danced as she whispered words in an old alien tongue, weaving a small shield of energy around them, just in case. Lift finally stopped with a deep clang, and the doors slid open, revealing a vast chamber, circular and wide. The air was heavy, like the weight of stars pressed down on their shoulders. In the center floated a massive orb, spinning slowly with arcs of light circling it. Tiny stars trapped in motion wires and tubes, connecting it to the walls like roots feeding a glowing. Ethan stepped forward, drawn to it without thinking. Every pulse from the orb matched the beat of his heart. The closer he got, the louder it became inside his mind. The girls stayed close, Nixa scanning the signals, Lyra watching the shadows, and Cora adjusting the tools on her belt. The orb spoke without words, images flashing in the air around them, moments of time caught in light, a war across galaxies, refugees hiding in ships, a voice calling for peace, and a station built to protect life, not destroy it. Ethan reached out and placed his hand on the control ring beneath the orb. Shock passed through his body, not pain but power. Memories, not his, rushed through him. He saw himself in another life, standing on this very platform, but wearing white armor with glowing symbols. He saw hundreds of species gathered around him as he promised to guard them with this station. Then a warning red light flashed all around them, and a voice boomed. Unauthorized signal detected, threat level escalating. Defense protocols active. Cora shouted something and pulled Ethan back just as the orb lit up red and a blast of energy fired from the ceiling. Lyra jumped in front, her blade slicing through the beam, her arms smoking from the impact, but she stayed standing. Nixa raised both hands and formed a barrier on them. The force rippled outward, slowing the energy around the orb, giving Ethan time to recover. He stood gasping, the images fading, but the voice remained, now softer. Air confirmed, station control available, choose activation path. Cora ran to the console on the side, working fast with her fingers. We have options here: restore sanctuary mode or switch to war protocol. The system is confused. It remembers war and peace. Both. Ethan looked at the girls, then at the swirling orb. He could choose to make the station a fortress again, weapons, shields, drones, everything ready for war, or he could return it to its true purpose, a haven for those who needed shelter. Lyra looked at him, her voice steady. Choose peace. We have seen too much war. Let this be different. Nixa nodded. This place remembers kindness. Give it that memory again. Cora added, if you choose war, the core may not stop, it will protect, but it may also judge every visitor as a threat. Ethan reached out and touched the console, his choice made. The orb glowed soft blue again, spinning faster, symbols aligned around it, and the voice changed. Sanctuary mode restored. Welcome back. Heir of the founder, all systems stabilized. The ground trembled once more, but this time not in anger. Doors opened, light poured in, and the station hummed like a giant beast finally at peace. The girls stared around the room as panels lifted and soft music filled the chamber, not just sound but something more, like the memory of calm filling their hearts. Cora whispered, you changed it. It listens to you, not like a tool but like a child to a parent. Lyra smiled slightly, not her usual grin but something deeper. Maybe now we are no longer prisoners. Nixa floated forward, touched Ethan's arm softly. You gave it life again. Maybe now it can give life back to others. Ethan breathed deep and looked around the core chamber that once felt like a cage, now felt like a heartbeat. But just as the peace settled, a signal blinked on the console again. Unidentified ship approaching fast. Ethan turned toward the display, and saw it a massive black vessel, no markings, no flag, moving straight toward them. Lyra narrowed her eyes. I know that ship they are slavers from. The broken rings, they search for rare life forms and power sources. Cora, check the shields, not ready for full attack, but we have defenses now thanks to the Koronixa. Floated higher, then let us prepare, not with fear, but with strength. Etha stepped back from the orb and watched the display as the ship grew closer. This time they were not helpless. The power core had awakened, and so had they. The dark shape of the enemy ship loomed closer outside the station, like a hungry beast sliding through the silence of space. Its hull covered in jagged plates and glowing red lines, the engines pulsing with unnatural energy. Ethan stared at the screen, his chest tight, as he realized the vessel was far larger than he first thought. Cora's fingers flew across the controls, trying to raise partial shields while the system still booted into full sanctuary mode, her voice steady but urgent. The weapons are old, half of them are fused. We can use the defense rings if I reroute the power from the sleep chamber. Snixa floated beside Ethan, her eyes glowing with blue light as she scanned the approaching signals. They have hundreds of life forms and 2 control centers. If we strike the command node, they might fall back. Lyra was already moving toward the launch bay, her steps fast and determined. I will take one of the old interceptors. If I can reach their bridge, we will stop them from boarding. Ethan followed her, but the hallway shifted, lights blinking, the station reacting again and blocking their path. A voice spoke inside the walls. Guardian protocol active. Do not leave the core. He turned back to the control chamber, the orb still glowing, but dimmer now, as if waiting for his next word. They are here to take us, Ethan said flatly, or worse. They know about the station, and maybe even about the Cora. Looked up from her console, her face pale. There is something worse in their data signature. They brought a hunter. Nixa whispered, a hunter from the slaver lords. A being bred only for capture and destruction. It can walk through fire and see through walls. Ethan stared at the blinking red dots, now entering the station through the outer ring. The intruders were already inside. The lights flickered, alarms rang low but steady like the heartbeat of a nervous giant. Lyra returned, her voice sharp. The ships outside are jamming escape frequencies. We cannot send distress calls. No one knows we are under attack. Ethan placed his hand on the orb again, and the console shifted, showing paths, corridors, and trap systems he had not seen before. He looked at the girls, then pointed. We do not run, we defend this place, and we fight back on our terms. Cora activated the floor locks, doors sealed in sections, and vent systems filled with smoke to confuse the invader. Snixa closed her eyes and sent a mental wave through the station, awakening the drones sleeping in the lower vaults. Rusty and slow, but still functional, they began to move like a forgotten army. Ethan moved with purpose, opening one vault, filled with armored suits, not made for war, but strong enough for defense. He threw one to Lyra, then pulled one onto himself, the metal cold but comforting. The intruders reached the midsection, their voices loud and cruel, speaking in a twisted tongue, their footsteps shaking the walls. One drone met them and exploded with a flash, buying a few seconds. Then the hunter arrived, tall and thin, with skin like metal and eyes like black stars. It moved without sound, slicing through the smoke with long blades that glowed. Red. Ethan faced it near the second level and fired a pulse shot. It dodged, then lunged. Lyra leapt from above, slamming her blade into its chest. Sparks flew, but the hunter did not fall. Nixa screamed and sent a shockwave that staggered the creature just long enough for Cora to trigger the trap panel beneath it. The floor opened and the hunter dropped down into the recycling shaft. It won't stop, Cora shouted. It will climb back up. We need to end this now. Ethan turned to the orb and yelled into the control channel, activate inner core lockdown, isolate all invaders from central zone. The station obeyed. Walls shifted, floors moved, corridors bent like twisting snakes, cutting the enemies from one another and trapping them in sealed rooms. Hunter clawed up the shaft, breaking the metal with each strike. Ethan met it at the edge of the upper bridge, the final line between them and the core. You want this place, Ethan growled. then take it from someone who will never let go. Hunter lunged again, fast and deadly, but Ethan ducked and jammed the energy core shard directly into the chest of the creature. The light exploded. Scream echoed through every hall. The hunter burned from inside, falling to pieces like ash. Silence returned. Smoke filled the air. Station settled again, breathing slowly through its walls. Cora lowered her tools. Nixa dropped to her knees and Lyra leaned on her sword, her face scratched but proud. Ethan stood in the center of it all, breath heavy, heart pounding. They had won, not because of weapons or strength, but because they stood together. The station had defended its own, and now it was theirs. Smoke still curled in the broken hallways, and the sound of power cables crackling filled the silence as Ethan walked slowly through the now quiet station, his eyes fixed on the glowing orb that floated calmly in the center of the core chamber. The alien girls followed behind him, each silent, each lost in thought. Cora adjusted the settings on her scanner, her voice low. Something changed during the fight. The station is no longer just reacting, it is watching and learning and waiting. Nixa touched one of the new glowing panels along the wall, symbols rearranging into patterns that looked like ancient writing. It is shifting its memory to match Ethan's presence, adapting to his thoughts. Lyra stood with her arms crossed, her blade resting on her back, her eyes sharp as ever. The enemies are gone for now, but we are still trapped, and we still do not understand what this place truly is. Ethan stepped closer to the orb and placed his hand on the control ring. Once more the room darkened, and the orb began to spin faster, colors flashing across its surface, images forming in the air around them. They saw cities floating in space, millions of alien beings working together, building the first pieces of the station under a black sky lit by twin suns. And then a man stepped forward, standing at the front of them all, a man who looked like Ethan, but older, taller, and surrounded by light. He raised his hand, and the station responded, growing and forming around him like it was alive, like it loved him. Cora whispered, "This is the architect, the one who created the sanctuary." Nixa added, "His name was erased from history, but the station remembers his shape, his mind, and his blood." Ethan could not look away as more images came, fast and blinding battles across the stars, weapons of destruction falling, silent refugees pouring into the station and being welcomed by the architect himself, who stood with arms open as the last shield of peace. Then came the betrayal, a dark ship, a whisper of greed. The sanctuary turned into a prison. The architect wounded, the station locked in confusion, unable to decide between war and peace. Lyra growled softly, "So they came here once before, tried to steal it, tried to turn it into a weapon, and they failed." The orb flashed again, and words appeared in the air, glowing softly. "Bloodline detected, final memory accessed, core override option available." Cora touched Ethan's arm. "Your choice again. If you override the station, it will link with you forever. It will become part of you, and you will become part of it." Nixa's voice trembled softly. "Once linked, you may never leave its reach. Your mind, your soul, your thoughts, all will echo within the walls." Lyra looked at him, her tone steady but heavy. "It means you control the station, but you also carry its burden forever." Ethan stepped back, eyes wide, as he looked at the glowing control ring, then at the girls, then back at the images still swirling around them. Felt it in his chest, a pull not of fear but of deep knowing, a sense that this station had waited too long for someone to understand it, someone to set it free. Took a breath and spoke clearly. "Activate override merge command." Station pulsed with light. The orb spun faster, beams of energy reaching out and wrapping around Ethan, pulling him into the air, his body glowing, his mind filling with information. He saw everything at once, every corridor, every system, every soul that had ever lived within these walls. He heard their laughter, their cries, their hopes and their fears. He saw the girls as they were when they first arrived, confused and trapped and scared. He saw himself walking in for the first time, coin in hand, unaware of the destiny waiting inside metal and memory. Then the light faded, and Ethan landed gently, his body shaking, but his eyes clear. "Understand now," he said softly. "This place was never meant to fight. It was meant to protect and to heal, and now it will do so." Again Cora smiled slowly. Then we are no longer prisoners, Nix's eyes shimmered. You are no longer just Ethan. Lyra stepped forward and offered him a small salute. You are commander of the last sanctuary. The orb settled, glowing calmly, its voice soft now, as if speaking with a heartbeat. Core stabilized. Link completo. New purpose. Ethan looked at the girls and then at the station around him. Once a broken shell of mystery, now a living being with hope. He had come here chasing a foolish dream, a one-credit station forgotten in the void. Now he stood at the center of something vast and ancient and full of life, and still the stars outside waited, still full of stories and dangers. But this time Ethan was not alone, had found purpose, and the station had found its voice again. The station breathed with new light, its walls no longer cold, its systems no longer confused. Every corridor shimmered with calm energy, and the stars outside reflected in its polished windows like silent watchers. Ethan stood at the center of the command chamber, no longer just a visitor, now part of the station itself, his thoughts echoing in its circuits, his heartbeat matched by the slow pulse of the glowing orb. Nixa floated beside him, her silver eyes calm. The link is stable, she said softly. Your mind is strong. The station accepts you completely. Cora was checking the outer scans, her voice steady. The slaver ship is drifting. They have no power. The hunter was their weapon, and now it is gone. Lyra stood near the sealed armory, her arms crossed, a faint smile on her face. They won't try again, not after this, but others will come someday, and we must be ready. Ethan looked at them, each different, each strong, each once trapped, but now free because of a choice, because of a one-credit risk that turned into everything he never expected. The station's voice hummed through the air. Core identity confirmed. All systems synchronized. Defense grid, online exploration maps, updated. New access levels granted. Cora raised an eyebrow. New maps. Ethan waved his hand, and the central display opened, showing star systems, hundreds of them, some marked red, some blinking green, each one a mystery. These are old paths, Ethan said softly, places the station once traveled or watched over before it was locked, places that may still carry survivors or answers or danger. Nixa stepped forward, her eyes wide. The sanctuary was meant to move, not to stay hidden. It was a roaming shelter for all who needed peace. Lyra nodded slowly, then let it roam again. Ethan touched the console, and a deep vibration ran through the floor. Engines, buried deep within the walls, began to wake. Ancient thrusters, long asleep, now preparing to rise. Cora braced herself against the wall. We are really doing this. We are bringing the station back to the stars. The orb glowed brighter. Travel mode activated. Coordinates requested. Ethan smiled and chose a system far on the edge of the map, unknown, unmarked, untouched. The station's lights turned golden, the walls adjusted, and the hum of power filled the air as the sanctuary began to move, its massive body sliding forward through space like a living comet, leaving the broken ship behind, drifting among forgotten memories. Hours passed as they settled into new routines. Drones repaired old corridors, rooms lit up that had been dark for decades, and gardens once wilted now bloomed under artificial suns. Nixa meditated in the crystal chamber, teaching the station how to dream through thoughts, and Peace. Cora worked in the tech bays, unlocking deeper levels of knowledge stored within the ancient systems. Lyra trained with the defense drones, sharpening both her skills and the blades that had protected them all. Ethan walked the halls, often feeling the walls shift in response to his presence. Sometimes the station showed him faces from the past, memories of visitors long gone. Other times it showed him possibilities, maps and designs he could not yet understand. One evening, as the station cruised silently through a glowing nebula, the girls joined him in the observation deck. The stars out there are endless, Nixa whispered, and for the first time I do not fear them. Cora nodded. We were once locked away like relics, but now we carry the last relic of peace, and it listens to us. Lyra leaned on the rail, her gaze sharp. As always, they will come again, others, slavers, warlords, hunters, but this time we will not hide. This time we fight with purpose. Ethan looked at them, then at the stars, and finally at the station that had changed everything. It is not just mine, he said slowly. It is ours, and we will guard it together. The orb's glow pulsed once more as if in agreement. Sanctuary moved forward through the nebula, leaving behind its past and reaching toward a new future, a place once sold. For one credit, now priceless, a human, once lost, now a leader. 3 alien girls, once trapped, now free warriors of a home that was never truly theirs, until now together. They would explore the edge of the galaxy, protect those in need, and keep the sanctuary alive. And as the stars unfolded before them, Ethan smiled, because this story was no longer about escape. It was about belonging, and the station at last had a purpose worth traveling for.